The house was silent, wrapped in the kind of darkness that made thoughts louder. Mark sat alone at the kitchen island, elbows resting on the cold marble surface. The only light came from the laptop in front of him, the screen casting a bluish glow over his tired face. He hadn't turned on the main lights. He didn't need to see the world clearly to know it had already changed. Earlier that day, Sam had passed him a small object during their brief chat on the porch. No drama, no confrontation, just a flash drive pressed into his palm like a whisper of betrayal. "You deserve the truth," she had said quietly, her voice low, almost apologetic. Now that truth was ready to be unpacked. His finger hovered over the trackpad for a moment longer, then double-clicked the folder. July, cabin, the video opened. Laughter, music, the kind that sounds innocent until it doesn't. The cabin looked cozy on screen, wood-paneled walls, soft lighting, glasses clinking, fire crackling. Then he saw her. Rachel, his wife. Her voice light, a little higher than usual, relaxed. She was sitting on a sofa in jeans and a tank top, barefoot, laughing about something off camera. "Come on, stop filming me," she giggled, but the camera didn't stop. It had been placed on a nearby table, still recording. Someone's hand brushed hers. A man's voice joined in. Mark's stomach twisted. Then came silence. The footage shifted. Later that night, the same room, but the tone darker. Shadows flickering from the fire. Rachel's voice again, hushed, intimate, not meant for Mark. Her body leaned into the frame, half lit, her laugh now a whisper. Then the sounds, low, unmistakable. A rhythm no words could hide. Mark closed the lid of the laptop. His heart wasn't racing, it wasn't broken, it was simply tired. He stared into the dark for what felt like hours, but in truth it was only minutes before he stood, took the flash drive, and walked to his home office. There, with hands that barely trembled, he inserted a second USB. Made a copy, labeled it plainly, cabin_backup. Because some truths should never be erased. When morning came, Rachel was already at the coffee machine. She smiled. "You're up early." Mark nodded slowly, his voice calm. "Remind me, how was the cabin in July?" She hesitated just for a second. Then, "Oh, that? Pretty uneventful, just wine and gossip. You know the girls." He held up the flash drive between two fingers. "Is that so?" She turned, finally looking at him fully. Her face didn't flinch. "I figured you'd never watch it," she said. "Not sorry, not ashamed, just busted and oddly... I'm staying at Sam's tonight," she added. Mark didn't reply. He didn't need to. She walked out 15 minutes later, suitcase in hand. No apology. No confrontation, just silence and the click of heels on the tile. But the flash drive remained, and so did the copy. The morning unfolded like any other. Eggs, toast, coffee. Rachel stood by the kitchen island, barefoot and perfect, hair pulled into a neat ponytail, face fresh, scent soft, like lavender and something artificial underneath. She scrolled through her phone as if nothing had happened, as if the previous night hadn't cracked the foundation of everything they'd built. Mark observed her from across the room. He didn't speak right away. He didn't need to. He watched her mannerisms, the way she tapped her thumb too fast against the glass screen, the slight tension in her jaw that betrayed the calm. "I was thinking," he said, finally, voice casual. "You remember that weekend you spent at the lake in July? The one with the cabin?" Rachel didn't flinch. She looked up, smiling too easily. "Oh, yeah, that was relaxing. Honestly, kind of boring." "You didn't miss much. It was a performance." She was playing the role of wife with nothing to hide. But Mark had already seen the audition tape, and the plot didn't match the script. He pulled the flash drive from his pocket, placed it gently on the counter. Her eyes dropped to it. Silence stretched between them like a wire taut and waiting to snap. "I thought you might," she said, tone light, but there was steel behind it. "Eventually." No apology, no defense, not even guilt, just resignation. Like she was finally relieved she didn't have to pretend anymore. "I'll stay at Sam's for a few days," she added. "I think we both need space." Space. The word hung in the air, ridiculous in its smallness. As if this were just a rough patch. As if space could clean out what he'd seen, heard, felt. She left 10 minutes later, duffel bag slung over one shoulder, heels in hand. The front door clicked shut with the soft finality of a closing drawer. Mark didn't follow her out. He returned to his office instead, sat at his desk. The laptop was still warm from the night before. He reopened the video. This time, he watched the full thing, not out of curiosity, but clarity. The camera caught everything, not just betrayal, but how ordinary it all seemed, how comfortable she was. It wasn't just physical. It was a different her, a version he didn't recognize, one who laughed easily in another man's arms, one who didn't hesitate to touch, to whisper, to offer. There were no secrets between them, no restraint, no guilt, only the illusion of intimacy in a place meant for escape. Mark paused the frame on her face, mid-laugh. He looked at it long and hard, and then he opened his email. He didn't reply to her yet, not to the one she sent him later that day, titled, "Let's not make this ugly." She wrote, "I've been thinking, let's handle this like adults, no drama, no one needs to get hurt. I'll delete the video from the camera and from my drive. Let's just split clean." Mark stared at the message, then typed a single line in response. "You forgot something. I work in IT." He hit send. Then, with methodical precision, he logged into his private YouTube account. One with no subscribers, no public activity, no traceable links. Uploaded the video, set the visibility to unlisted, then compiled a list of emails, family, close friends, a few colleagues, people who had always complimented their marriage, called them couple goals, sent heart emojis on anniversary photos. To them, he sent only a link, no subject line, no explanation, just the raw truth, delivered quietly. The video had been live for 24 hours. Mark hadn't spoken to anyone directly. He didn't need to. The silence around him had changed. It hummed now, bristling, alert, waiting, like the moments before a thunderstorm breaks. By noon the next day, the emails started. Short, stunned. "I don't know what to say. We thought you two were unbreakable. She fooled everyone." His sister called. Mark ignored it. His mother sent a voice message, her tone cracking halfway through. "I never trusted that polished smile of hers, you know. God, Mark, I'm sorry. I should have said something." He appreciated the concern, but he wasn't looking for comfort. He wanted truth to do what it always does when finally exposed. Cleanse. At 2:47 p.m., Rachel texted, "You a coward." That was private. He didn't respond. By 6 p.m., someone had screen recorded the video. It was already circulating in private chats, small enough circles to avoid public scandal, but large enough that no one in their social sphere would remain unaware. The irony? Mark hadn't added captions, hadn't labeled anything, just raw footage. But even without context, it told a perfect story. The laughter, the hand on her thigh, the shift from playful to intimate, the stolen hours in a place she swore was boring. It wasn't about punishing her publicly. It was about removing the mask. That night, he opened the second email she had sent, this one more desperate. "Please take it down. You made your point. We both know it's over. Don't humiliate me in front of my family. Let's end this with some grace." Grace? Mark almost laughed. He left it unread. Instead, he poured himself a drink, whiskey, neat, and sat in the backyard. The air was crisp, the sky beginning to bruise with twilight. The house behind him felt quieter than ever. It was strange, he thought, how betrayal didn't always scream. Sometimes it whispered slowly, like a leak under the floorboards. It rotted you from beneath. His phone buzzed, a message from Sam. "You did what had to be done." A pause. "Can I come by?" He replied, yes. She arrived 20 minutes later, no makeup, a soft knit sweater wrapped around her like armor. She stepped inside, kicked off her boots, and handed him a bottle of wine without a word. They sat on opposite sides of the couch. She watched him closely, not out of pity, but recognition. "You okay?" she asked. Mark took a sip of the whiskey. "Define okay. I would insult you by pretending this was easy." He turned to her. "You knew." Sam didn't look away. "Yes." He studied her in the silence that followed, not angry, just curious. "How long?" "Months," she said. "Maybe longer." "I suspected something before the trip, but that weekend, I knew." She was different. And the camera. Her lips pressed into a line. "I brought it. I told her it was for vlogging the trip. I left it running while I went for a walk." She never noticed. He stared at her, not speaking. The pieces clicked together slowly, painfully. "You planned this." "No," she said gently. "I prepared for it." "There's a difference." Well, Sam leaned back, the flicker of guilt in her eyes. "Because you never would have believed me. And you were too in love, or maybe too scared to look closely. I figured if truth ever mattered to you again, it should come from her own mouth." Mark didn't argue. She was right. Sam swirled her wine, voice low. I hated watching her lie to you, but I couldn't interfere unless I was sure. You deserved more than suspicions. You needed evidence. He exhaled slowly, the weight of her honesty hitting harder than the video itself. Did you ever think about telling me before? She nodded. Almost did, 100 times, but every time I looked at you, I saw the man, still hoping he was wrong. And I couldn't be the one to shatter that hope. There was a long silence, the kind that wasn't awkward, just earned. Then she said, she didn't just betray you, Mark, she underestimated you. That, more than anything, struck a nerve because it was true. Rachel had assumed he would never look, never check, never question, that he'd protect the illusion, even when it was already broken. Sam placed her glass on the table and stood. I should go. I didn't come here to gloat, just to see if you were still standing. He looked up at her, and for the first time in days, something close to peace flickered in his chest. I'm still standing. She smiled faintly. Good, because now comes the part where you rebuild. As she walked to the door, he called out, why did you really give me the flash drive? Sam turned, one hand on the doorknob. Because even if the truth hurts, she said, it's still yours to own. It had been 5 days. Rachel hadn't returned. Not for her clothes, not for her files, not even for the necklace she never took off. The one he found curled like a silver snake under the bathroom sink. Mark didn't reach out. Not once. He had spent the week methodically cleaning out his life. Every drawer she'd cluttered with receipts, coupons, old lipsticks emptied, every shared photo on the walls boxed, her spare keys on the counter waiting like unanswered questions. The house felt larger now, not emptier, clearer. What surprised him wasn't the sadness. It was how little of it there was. Grief, yes, but not the kind that comes with love lost. It was the grief of being fooled, of handing someone the map to your soul, only to watch them redraw the borders. The video was still online, unlisted, quiet, but it had reached its audience. A dozen people had written back, some angry, some grateful. One friend from college messaged simply, I never liked her, but I never had proof. Now I understand you. Rachel's family hadn't contacted him, not even her sister who used to text him birthday reminders. Silence from their side spoke louder than any apology. And then, on Saturday, the doorbell rang. Sam, she wasn't holding wine this time. Just a brown envelope. You said you wanted closure, she said. Mark stepped aside, let her in. She sat without invitation. He appreciated that. No need for ceremony between people who had already walked through fire together. What's that? He asked, nodding at the envelope. Truth, she said, more of it. He hesitated before opening it. Inside, screenshots, emails, logs, photos, some he'd never seen before. Others he had, but they looked different now, sharper, less blurry around the edges of denial. She wasn't just with him once, Sam said. She wasn't just with one him. Mark looked up slowly. Sam exhaled. Rachel's lake trip was only one chapter. There were others. Other weekends, other men, different stories, same smile. The air in the room shifted, colder now, but calmer too. I did some digging, she added, not out of spite, just pattern recognition. Why, he asked again, why go this far? She met his gaze, firm. Because you weren't just lied to. You were rewritten. She made you into someone you weren't, meek, distracted, passive. I remembered the Mark who used to challenge everything, who never let people walk all over him. He laughed once, dryly. And now I'm back? Not yet, she said, but you're getting there. He sifted through the pages again. One photo caught his attention. Rachel, months ago, smiling with someone unfamiliar, a rooftop bar, late summer. It wasn't the setting that struck him, it was her body language, the comfort, the ease. It wasn't about sex. It never had been. It was about erasure. Rachel had been slowly rewriting the story of their marriage for over a year, adjusting the edges, bending the truth, smudging over guilt with convenience. Mark closed the envelope. He didn't feel anger. He felt precision. That evening, he sat at his computer, opened a new project folder titled The Pattern. He pulled from the video files, the logs, the emails. No names, just stories, vignettes. Anonymous confessions. He added a narration track, his voice calm, but edged with resolve. No theatrics, just clarity. He built the pilot episode of what he already knew would become a series, Lies We Live With. It wasn't about Rachel anymore. It was about the quiet epidemic of betrayal dressed in normalcy, about the people who wore wedding rings and practiced duplicity like a second language. He uploaded the episode, created a new channel, No identifying links. In less than 24 hours, it had 3,000 views and comments. This hit hard. I thought I was crazy for suspecting him. I'm not. Please make more. Mark sat back, watching as truth found its own traction. Later that night, he got one last message from Rachel. "Why are you doing this? I thought you were better than revenge." He stared at it for a long moment before typing. "This isn't revenge, it's a record." He deleted it and sent nothing. Some betrayals didn't deserve closure. They deserved documentation. Just before midnight, Sam returned. No envelope this time, just herself. They didn't talk much. She poured them each a glass. They sat on the floor, backs to the couch, eyes on the flickering candle between them. Vinci asked, "What are you going to do with all this freedom now?" Mark looked at her, the corner of his mouth lifted, not a smile, just something. "I think I'll build something with it." 2 months later, the house didn't feel like theirs anymore. The photos were gone. The bed was new. Even the silence had changed. It no longer echoed with ghosts, but stretched like fresh canvas. A space where something else could finally exist. Mark had moved, not out of grief, but design. A new apartment in the city, smaller, high up, clean lines, wide windows, no memories embedded in the floorboards. The kind of place where every item had a purpose and every corner stayed honest. He didn't tell many people he was leaving the house, just left a note on the fridge. "You can keep the facade. I'm done living in it." His channel had grown faster than he expected. What began as a single video, one man's quiet confession, had evolved into a series with tens of thousands of followers. Each episode featured a different story, anonymous, raw, real. No screaming, no clickbait, just people unraveling quietly on camera. Lies We Live With had become something more than content. It was a mirror. Viewers sent in their own recordings, letters, voice memos, stories whispered in kitchens and garages and empty bedrooms. Stories like his. Worse than his. Better in some ways because they still held hope. Here, show his face. Not yet. The voice was enough, and yet people started to recognize it anyway. Not the voice itself, but what it carried. Resolve. A calm refusal to stay silent. One morning, as the sun slid lazily over the skyline, Mark stood in front of his camera. For the first time, he faced it. No mask, no angles. Just him, plain and deliberate. He hit record. I used to think truth would destroy me. That knowing, really knowing, would burn everything down. But the lie was already doing that. Quietly. Daily. Brick by brick. The truth didn't ruin me. It gave me permission. Permission to begin again. He paused steady, then continued. Not every lie screams. Some whisper, some wear perfume and make dinner and ask how your day went. But the moment you stop lying to yourself, that's when you're free. Not safe, not healed, but free. He ended the video with no music, no dramatic cut, just a lingering frame, his face still unreadable, and then black screen. It wasn't about Rachel anymore. It never really had been. She had tried once to call. He let it ring out. Not out of anger. He had simply lost interest in the fiction. Sam had become something constant. Not quite a lover, not quite just a friend, more like a co-conspirator in recovery. They shared dinners, long silences, stories of what they almost became and what they refused to become. One night, as they sat side by side watching the final edit of a new episode, she turned to him and asked, "You miss her?" He didn't hesitate. "No, I miss who I thought she was, but even that version was just my hope wearing her face." Sam nodded. Later, as the episode uploaded, Mark stood by the window watching the city below shimmer with distant lives and unspoken truths. He picked up the camera one last time, pressed record. Not every truth brings peace, but it brings clarity. And with clarity, we can build again. He clicked the upload button, then closed the laptop, poured himself a drink, and walked out onto the balcony. Not to escape, but to begin